Yo, what is going on, Vault Hunters, and welcome back to another Borderlands 3 gameplay video. Hey, in this video I'm going to be showing off my endgame Moze build. All the gameplay that you're going to see here is in true Vault Hunter mode with Mayhem turned on, and whether it's 1, 2, or 3, it varies depending on the clips. But Mayhem is always on in this gameplay. So anyways, let's move on to the build. The build it's a little different because most of the builds that you're seeing out there are either, for endgame at least, they're either like a flak, high crit damage, major DPS build where you just sort of stand and deliver, or you get something like a Moze grenade mod build where you're spamming grenades like crazy and regenning grenades. Now I went a different route, so I'm going to slow down. I'm just going to show everything in my build on the screen. If you have any questions about those, you could pause and kind of read the descriptions. Otherwise, this video could be like 20 minutes long if I sat here and read everything out loud. But I'm just going to go over the basics of everything that's in this build, starting with the weapons. And this is obviously flexible depending on your playstyle. But I tend to run, I like to have a Maggie, and I'm kind of on the hunt now for a level 51. The one I'm using in this gameplay is 42, and it's still really good. It's a Jacobs pistol. It's a returning legendary weapon, and it shoots almost like a shotgun spread, but it's a really tight spread, so it's still really accurate at range. Real quick before I go over the other weapons, just the whole point of this build, there's two things. One, chain kills, so chaining kills, stacking doctrine stacks and doing high DPS, and also being really, really mobile. Because a lot of the endgame builds I'm seeing, they're kind of boring in the sense that they're all about stand and deliver. Stand here, shoot that thing, do major DPS, and melt it really fast. And I think that there's a place for that. I think that can be fun to see a boss's health just go all the way down. But I went with something that was more, I don't know, interactive, more dynamic, and that is this build where I'm basically moving at vehicle speeds, and not, when I say basically, you literally are moving at vehicle speeds with this build. You are going as fast as a bandit technical can drive. So not as fast as a cyclone, obviously, but as fast as a bandit technical can go. I did this with a buddy of mine. I had him driving a technical, and I just slid alongside the vehicle. You can keep up. It's pretty freaking cool. And so that makes it so it's a lot more interesting. You're not just walking into a room, finding some cover, and then peeking up and taking your shots, peeking back down and regenerating your shields. Like this, you are out there, right? You're holding forward, you're playing hyper aggressive, and you can skate circles around bosses, you can skate circles around BA opponents, anointed opponents, and you get access to crit spots really quickly that way. You're able to avoid a ton of incoming damage. It's just so much fun. It's a much more involved way to play the game. Now back to the build. So I talked about the Maggie. I'm also using a one pump chump just because the one pump chump does, oh my gosh, it does so much crit damage, guys. And I'll get to the perks in my build, in my skill trees later, but suffice it to say, you can do a ton of crit damage. Not as much as Flak, obviously, because that's kind of his thing, but certainly enough to make this build very, very relevant in endgame activities. So the one pump chump does so much crit damage, you can chain kills really quickly, get doctrine stacks really quickly, and you can even use it as a sniper rifle if you so choose. In my third slot, I'm using the Butcher. Mine is it's a cryo Butcher, and I like to have the Butcher in my inventory because obviously it's just so good at burning big targets, so bosses or rampaging Goliaths, things like that, BA psychos. So the Butcher's a really nice thing to have. As far as I know, there's no place to really farm for a Butcher that I know of. I could be wrong there, but I don't know that you can target farm a Butcher. But legendaries drop like candy in this game, and in fact, even though a lot of the things in this build aren't farmable, like you can't target farm them, even though that's true, just going and farming vault bosses for a few hours, you could probably get, like, I got everything in this build in 2 farming sessions of just farming vault bosses. That's it. That's all it took. Legendaries drop like candy in this game, like candy. In the last slot, I'm using the Lucian's Coil, which you'll see. Man, if you haven't found one of these things, this is a top tier. I mean, this is a fantastic legendary auto rifle. because of how much damage it can do. The DPS is really high, and obviously there's a lot of targets in this game with yellow health bars, and this thing just shreds those yellow health bars, and you're constantly getting ammo back in your magazine. You can just hold the trigger down. It's so nice to have a Lucian's Coil in your inventory, especially since I'm doing 2 non-elemental weapons in my build. You run into so many yellow health bars that it's really nice to have something corrosive there in your inventory. My Lucian's Coil, it does the job. So, moving on to the shield. This is crucial to this build. The shield is crucial. It is a front loader shield. Now, what the front loader shield is, it takes 60% of your red health bar, and it reallocates those hit points into your shield. Okay, 60% of your health gets reallocated, taken from your red health bar and put into your blue shield bar instead. On top of that, it has a 10% health reduction. Why is that important? Well, we'll get into that in the perks section, because this is going to synergize like major with something in Moze's skill tree. If you play Moze, you probably already know what that skill is, but we'll get to that in a second. But the front loader shield is a must-have for this build. The grenade, I'm using Moxie's Bouncing Pear. Honestly, you can use whatever you want, but Moxie's Bouncing Pear is it's one of the better grenade mods out there right now. Moving on to the class mod. So I'm using a Shield Maiden class mod, and this is going to help, again, synergize with a perk in your skill tree. But overall, what this class mod is going to do is it's going to bump up your shield capacity considerably, and mine also gives me Jacob's weapon accuracy, which is fantastic considering I'm using the Maggie and the one pump chump. So I get greater accuracy with those things. And in some of these clips, I'm also using a Jacob sniper rifle, which does a ton of damage and makes it really easy to take out, especially these Maliwan chumps with their crit spots that are sort of on their back that sort of peek up over their shoulders. This sniper rifle makes it easy to hit those. The artifact, this is another crucial part. This is sort of central to this build. Since I'm playing hyper aggressive, I'm out there, right? I'm sliding in and out of cover and into mobs, taking the shots I want to take, and then sliding out of those mobs when I get in trouble, and just keeping high mobility. That's because I have the Snowdrift artifact. In my opinion, this artifact is game-changing. It dramatically changes the way that you play the game. It increases your slide speed so that you are on par with vehicles, right? This is what's going to help me move as fast as I do. So increases your movement speed while sliding. Also, it's going to shoot out cryo damage. You're going to shoot out these sort of like snowballs that are going to end up seeking out and tagging opponents and slowing them down and sometimes freezing them. So it's so nice to have that because I'm moving faster, way faster, and then it ends up slowing my opponents even further down. So landing your crits is a lot easier with something when something has been tagged with cryo damage. So this artifact, the Snowdrift artifact, super crucial to the build. Again, you cannot target farm a Snowdrift artifact. You just got to keep your eye out for it when it drops. And the thing is, like between my class mod and my artifact, I could be using legendary mods and legendary artifacts, sure. But none of them really synergize that I've found synergize with this build quite as well as these legendary ones do. Not everything in your inventory has to be orange in order for you to be, dealing as much damage as you want to do. So, moving on to the skills. This is crucial to the build, obviously, the skills that you choose to run. I'm running things like Scrappy, which gives you buffs to your like weapon handling, swap times, things like that, changing firing modes anytime you're moving. So, when you're moving, your guns are going to be much more responsive and handle a lot better. Also using redistribution, using Scorching RPMs, which gives you a crit damage buff, which is really crucial for this build as well. Desperate Measures. Okay, this is like the central thing to this build, is Desperate Measures, because basically what this perk does is that the lower your health, the greater your gun damage. And obviously I'm stacking all these crit damage buffs on top of that. So look at my health bar. It's at 1. I have 1 hit point in my red health bar. That's because I'm stacking these perks in my skill tree as well as the shield that I've got on, taking 60% of my red health bar and reallocating it, and a 10% health reduction. I'm stacking all these things to give me as low health as possible, running 1 hit point. Then everything else, all my other hit points, are reallocated into my shield. Now that's gonna stack with this perk, this Desperate Measures perk. My health is at 1. It's as low as it can possibly get, so I'm getting the most bang for my buck. My damage, gun damage increase is as great as it could possibly be at this point because my health is so freaking low. Finally, Phalanx Doctrine is it's just so much fun. You're starting to get these stacks as you get kills. It's going to increase your shield capacity and gun damage. That's the build, guys. And it basically leads to this gameplay, this playstyle where you are just hyper aggressive. You can slide anywhere you want to slide, in and out of cover, in between opponents, and you can skate circles around bosses, avoid their heavy attacks really easily. I mean, especially for fighting like Grave Ward, you know, you're trying to focus on DPS, and sometimes you're not so aware of when he's bringing in like his swiping a fiery fist attack and leaving that radiation behind, stuff like that. And when you realize it's happening, you can actually get out of it. You know, where otherwise it might be like, crap, I got to take this hit because I was so focused on DPS, I wasn't really reading his cues and his tells. Well, now you slide right out of it. It's no problem. You can just instantly get to bandit technical boost speeds and fly out of there. It's so freaking fun, guys. It is so freaking fun. And to me, this is superior. And I understand everyone's playstyles are different, but for me, this is superior to these other builds where you just stand and deliver. Walk into a room, stand in this place, shoot that thing in its crit spot until it dies. And I think there's a time and a place for that where you see boss health get melted really quick, and that can be fun. But for me, I really like to enjoy the encounters. For me, it's not all about just farming efficiently and getting it done as fast as I can so that I can look at all the loot. I do love getting loot, but to me, I really want to enjoy the experience. And with this build, you can do the damage you have to do to keep up and even, excel in the endgame activities. You can do the damage you have to do that. But at the same time, you're seeing more of the map, more of the rooms. You're enjoying the encounter a little bit more because you're just, you're sliding all around the map. You're seeing all there is to see. You're dodging the attacks. You just feel so much more involved and invested at that point. And that's the way it makes me feel when I play this build. So hopefully you can get some of these things. The one pump chump is farmable. You can target farm that. If you're not sure how, there's a guy in Electricity that you can farm. You can look up one pump chump farm on YouTube, and I'm sure there's plenty of tutorials out there to find one of those. Everything else, just keep your eye out for it. When it drops, check it off the checklist. In this game, you're going to get drops pretty regularly, so your chances of getting the things you need to have for this build to function, your chances are pretty good. And there's a lot of leniency as well in the weapon choice. So, good luck out there. Best of luck on your farming. I hope you enjoyed this build. Hopefully you enjoyed the gameplay. And I hope to catch you out there sometime. Peace.